Hey friends, Jonathan Neal here, and today I want to talk about something that I think is absolutely critical to implement in any physical training, any sports training, and even in any self-care regimen. I think it's something that virtually, if not every single person can benefit from. Um, on top of that, it's something that I don't really see talked about. It's kind of even in some of the main uh, some of the main certification courses that I've gone through or that I've looked at, they talk about it, but it's kind of just like a side note, like, hey, here's this thing, and here's how it works, and here's what's going on. Anyway, and it just kind of goes on from there. I've never really seen it stressed that much. Now, I've started putting an emphasis on it in my own training and with my own clients, and the results have been really good so far. I haven't had any problems arise because of it, any like extra pain or injuries, but it's definitely helped myself and helped my clients to overcome pain that they have, like chronic pain or acute pain. Maybe they were doing a workout and they came back and they're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. We found ways to use this technique to fix that. And this technique is what we call myofascial release. Now, myofascial release, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. There's a lot of different ways that you can cause your body to have this sort of reaction and to retention. But I'm going to keep it pretty simple today. Before I even get into what it is and all that kind of stuff, we're just going to talk about why it's important. Because I think that before you go add anything else into your already busy life and your already busy training and fitness regimen, it's going to be important to know, like, well, why should I even do this, right? Number one reason is kind of what I already talked about. Pain mitigation, and sometimes we can even eliminate pains in the body using this technique. Your performance, if you're an athlete, will definitely be affected by this. But even if you're not an athlete, even if you're just, working in an office and you're just coming to the store and back, carrying the groceries, getting up and down stairs, getting in and out of your car, just the basic things. A lot of times people get hurt doing these things, and it's obviously not because they're strenuous activities, it's just because their body has these imbalances and stuff, and if they move just the wrong way after a long enough time, just getting out of the chair and twisting, sometimes they'll really pull or really tear something. And that's not something that just happened. That's something that's been building up for a long time because of what we call adhesions or knots in the muscles. And that's what myofascial release addresses. So it can increase your range of motion. For me and for other people, we've reported that it really helps with anxiety. I like to do it right before I go to sleep. I run my own business and I got a lot of things going on, a lot of people that I'm taking care of left and right. And, sometimes it just gets to be a lot. And, if I just take a little bit of time before I fall asleep at night or just when I wake up in the morning to do a little bit of this myofascial release, it's really, really helped me. To get to sleep, to just wake up and then I do a little bit and then I feel better. I have a better day. I deliver a better attitude and a better experience to my clients and to my students. So it's helped me with anxiety, it's helped me with sleep, and it's also really good for preventing injuries. Again, like I said, a lot of the injuries that we get are because when we're moving and we have these what we call fascial restrictions or adhesions, that sets the alignment of our bone and muscle movement off, and that's when we're throwing something, especially if it's something we're not used to, especially if we're kind of working at an office and then you want to go out and throw a football around with your friends one day, that's where people get hurt. Because the body's not prepared for that movement, and when you do it a couple times, you easily hurt something. And bottom line is this technique just helps you to feel better in general and to move better, and is healthy for you. So, I guess basically we'll get into what myofascial release really is, and it's basically a technique that we use to break up what's called adhesions in the muscles, or what we call fascial restrictions. That is basically restrictions in the fascia, which is like a connective tissue that goes through the muscles and the bones and everything. But it's really adhesions in muscles. Say we have an adhesion here from sitting in an office chair. That's what leads to that rounding and makes it so hard to pull it back. So what we want to, what myofascial release is finding a way to release some of these tensions so that your body can naturally move into a better posture and move better in general. So, the next question is, what is an adhesion? What does that look like? What are you talking about? So, what we're going to look at is I made this really just high quality artwork right here. I will, of course, be selling signed copies of this at the end if you want to check that out. Because, I mean, the quality is just so high. So what we're looking at here is a really, really detailed and very, I think, very well made basic image of what goes on inside of, what a muscle looks like on a microscopic scale, and what these adhesions really are. So what we have up here in this top part is we have normal muscle tissue. And basically, if you think about like a fiber optic cable, a fiber optic cable is basically a cable that's made out of a bunch of little filaments that kind of like are very tightly packed and therefore make one thing. And it's kind of like, our muscles are kind of like that. They're made up of all these, kind of tube-like, kind of wired, kind of filament-like tissues that go along. And then, if you notice, there's all these little dits in there. And all those little dits are what we call sarcomeres. And your muscle tissue basically works, the way that your bicep moves in and out like this is by these little sarcomeres, or these little dits. They pull towards each other, and then, like if you were to stretch a muscle, they get stretched away from each other. So in a natural or a normal healthy muscle tissue, when you're contracting, they're pulling together using electrical impulse from the nerves, and then when you're relaxing, they return ideally just back to their kind of normal or nominal spacing, right? And so that's just a normal muscle tissue. Then we check out what happens in a fascial restriction, or what we would call an adhesion. So if you see, it's the same kind of idea, and usually there's a lot more of this. So I'm just going to keep this really simple here. We'll just say this middle strand, or this middle fiber right here had some adhesions in it. And basically what you can see from this, again, really detailed drawing here, is that there's these areas where it kind of bunches up. And that's why we call it an adhesion, just like an adhesive, like a glue is called an adhesive because it sticks things together. What you have is a bunch of those little dits, or the sarcomeres, get stuck together. And this can happen from injury, from overuse, from sitting in a certain way, from having a certain posture. There's a number of ways it can happen. I'm far more concerned at this point with how we can release it, and then worry about how it's happening in the first place. Then we can make some changes there. But the main thing is just to get it released, get your body back in line. So what we have is again, where all of these sarcomeres come together, and then for some reason or another, they get bound up. And it's not enough that they get bound up, and that causes your one muscle to get shortened, and the other ones get stretched out, and that can lead to a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort, a lot of bad movement that eventually leads to injury. But also, these areas tend to, because they get all blocked up and jammed up like this, tend to pool blood and toxins and get stagnant. Which is why when we touch them, and if you've ever been massaged and you have certain areas that hurt, they hurt because they have that buildup of blood, and again, like waste products and stuff, and it just gets inflamed, and then when you push on it, it causes pain. Or you could call it discomfort. I prefer the term discomfort because to me, pain is something different. Pain is when something's going wrong. In this case, it might feel like a lot like pain, but it's really a discomfort because it's something that's going right. So now that we understand a little bit about what an adhesion or a fascial restriction is, again, pretty basic description. It gets more in depth than that in reality, but for what we're going to do for the practical, you don't need to know much more than that. So, what is myofascial release then, and how do I use it to help to address this problem? Well, the main way that I like to do it, and the way that I'm going to be teaching you in these videos, is using specific tools such as this ball right here to release them by yourself. So you don't even need to go to a massage therapist or go to a chiropractor or do any of those kind of things. You can just use this tool on yourself. And I think that that's very empowering. I think that's very, just a great thing to be able to kind of be your own therapist. Now with this being said, again, this isn't supposed to be a cure-all for everything. This isn't meant to address like real pains, real issues. I'm not, saying this is going to necessarily cure all of your problems or fix any of them. But it's something that, again, I've noticed good results with myself and with my clients. So disclaimer, do try this, do be careful with it, be smart with it, but, this isn't, I'm not a doctor and I'm not telling you this is going to heal you. Just try it, see how it works, and even get back to me and let me know if it worked for you or not. Because again, the results I've seen for myself speak for me, and tell me enough, all I need to know, and then I've worked with my clients as well, and they've had shoulder pains and other stuff just go away. So anyway, that being said, one of the tools, basically what we do in order to break up these adhesions, is we first have to locate them, and then when you find, what you'll feel is because these things, these sarcomeres bind up, you get, and again the blood and all that other stuff pools there, you get these little nodules, and they're usually like pea size, or sometimes a little bigger, but there's these little bumps, and again, like I said before, most of the time they're not pleasant to touch on. You want to make sure that you're not, necessarily pushing on, like, I say stay in the muscle belly for now when you're doing this on your own until you get really confident at it, or you really start to know more about your body. But anyway, so what we're going to do is, the way that I'm going to break those up is by applying direct pressure to them, and sometimes I use a very tiny, very slow, and very subtle, what we call brushing technique, where the ball is on the spot but just kind of rolls very slowly back and forth without ever leaving the spot. So it's always there, but it's just kind of brushing up and down, but nice and slow. And so the way that you would find this, let's say for instance I wanted to get, one of the common ones that I do with almost everyone is pec major. I've had a lot of people with shoulder problems come, we release pec major, a few other things on their back, and it's gone. So what I'm just gonna give you an example. If, say, I was laying on the ground and I was face down and I had my arm up like this, and I would just put this ball here, and we're going to have an actual video on how to do this particular muscle, but this is just an example. And if I was laying down on the ground, there'd be weight and pressure pushing in, and I'd want to get it, honestly, I'd want to get it pretty strong. If you're brand new to this, you have a lot of problems and you feel a lot of pain, don't push too much. If you're feeling it, that's enough to let it start to release. But if you're reasonable, good posture, you're reasonable, if you don't feel it, basically, sometimes you do have to dig deeper. So if I'm putting pressure onto the muscle, and then I very slowly would just kind of move my body around and very, very slow, until I find that spot. I say it's about the same speed that if you stuck your finger into a pool of water and wanted to move it without causing ripples in the water, that's about how fast I'm going to roll this across, because we want to make sure that if we find that spot, then we can really, really, sit on it, or again do that tiny little brushing motion. So the idea is that, once I was laying down and I'm rolling around and I find it, I'm going to sit. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to have to, basically the more I can relax my nervous system, the quicker this thing is going to release. So I like to use breathing techniques. I'll inhale. A lot of times what I use is kind of and then a long exhale through the mouth, more of I actually visualize cooling air just going over the spot and just feeling it release. I visualize that in my head. You don't have to do that, but that's what works for me. And you can even do this when you watch TV or read something. You just want to be careful that you don't roll off and think that you fixed the spot, but you were just distracted by what was going on the TV. But it is important to relax, and it's also important to have a lot of patience, because a lot of times you have to sit on these spots for a while. And a lot of times, especially if it's an old spot, some of these are 10, 20, 30 years old from sitting in chairs from when we're kids. And, sometimes they can take a long time to release. It takes patience. It's definitely not the most comfortable thing you've ever done in your life. But as with a lot of those kind of things in life, the result is something that, again, I will never stop doing this myself. I will never stop teaching it to my clients. It's so potent in its ability to overcome injury and to just feel better and to move better and to have better mobility. That is something that I think is absolutely critical. And that's why I'm making this video. And this one is just here to describe, basically the fundamentals of myofascial release, what it is, why to do it. And then the subsequent videos will teach you actual specific techniques. But if you ever need to, you can refer back to this video just to get an idea of what you're doing. But the subsequent videos will also have some information too. Again, My name is Jonathan Neal. This is my first intro video to the series on myofascial release. Again, I really believe in this technique. It's really changed my life, and it's changed and helped a lot of people that I've been working with. So I hope that you come with me on this journey, and that you watch these videos and you can put this to use, and that you too can find better movement, feeling better, relief from anxiety. I just hope that you can find at least some of the benefits that I've found out of this practice. So thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing all the videos that I can possibly think to make of all the different areas of the body that we can release and how to do that. And I look forward the most to hearing back from you guys on how it either worked, didn't work, the trouble that you had with it, the success that you had with it, anything at all. Please go ahead, message, like, subscribe, any of that kind of stuff. Again, my name is Jonathan Neal. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to this myofascial release journey with all of you.